Shopify Kryptonite, the official Woolman video blog, and we're gonna discuss today about how we should do a good design in Shopify. My name is Teemu Tolonen, and I have my colleagues Joonas Toroi, our lead designer, with us. Welcome. And then we have Mikko, Rekola, our lead growth hacker. Also, hello. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
We're going to be talking about design, how you should be doing a good design, what you should actually focus in, what you should be avoiding when you're doing design. But before we actually go into the subject of the other day, we should actually do a tip of the week. There's a lot of things happening now due to the COVID-19. So, Mikko, what have we seen? What have we learned in the past week? What's the tip of the week that we want to share with our customers and listeners?
That's a splendid question, Teemu. So I would like to ask Joonas about the different devices. As we have seen data from our merchants all across the globe, the thing is that in many cases, there are much more desktop users than prior to the crisis. So we have seen lift up to 30 to 40% of desktop users, and the amount of purchasers in some of our merchant stores have gone up by 30 to 40%. So people are using desktop devices more than prior to the crisis. And that's a very different kind of view as we have been always like talking about mobile first and the mobile experience and how important it's to optimize for mobile. So Joonas, what would you say about the desktop? How to take that into consideration when doing design and when you are doing like landing pages or campaigns right now, what to consider?
Okay, well, first up, I think we have talked about that mobile first is really important because before the crisis, I think we see even more than 80% of users may come from mobile devices, so small screens. But now, as you said, there's also increase in desktop views as well. And it's really important that your site works well in both of the situations. So we don't want to say to any of your visitors that you're not welcome. We want to present everything to any kind of visitor, even if you're a desktop or a mobile user. And usually things are a little bit easier in desktop because, of course, we have more screen real estate, so we can present your products and your brand in a much broader screen, and there's a lot of room for good images and good stories and stuff like that. So when you have a good team, usually both sides are really done well, and you shouldn't have any bigger problems. You should even see that maybe the customers are really more excited when they can see the pictures in full screen and see the full benefits of going to your site with desktop devices as well. So that's in summary. I think both are really important, and why we emphasize the mobile usually because users are more using mobile, but don't ever forget desktop either. So keep both in mind.
Excellent.
I think these kind of problems might be happening if you are using some kind of a landing page app or kind of workaround tool, and you've been kind of creating the mobile first landing pages based on the campaigns that you've been doing with the paid ads. So I think it's a good heads up for everyone who's listening that surprise, surprise, people are at their homes, they're working. They might be doing something else than working also, so they're using their laptop to actually browse around the e-commerce store. So that was a good tip. Thank you, guys. The topic of the episode now is how to make a good design in Shopify, and we could actually start from the kind of the definition of the design. So, Joonas, this is a touchy subject. I think we've in the Woolman organization we've talked a lot about making a good design.
Yeah.
So how would you actually define design itself? Is it a piece of content? Is it logos, colors? Is it something magical that we can actually describe? The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, as you said, this is a really tricky subject. I think design is more of a broader kind of view. It takes consideration a lot of things. And for example, of course, one of the most important thing when you're thinking about designing your web store is how can you present the best of your brand, best of your products? How can you show what your brand is about? And of course, then there's the level of design that how should the web shop work? And in that point of view, there are some kind of like laws of UX. How should things go? Because if you go all the way, you think too much outside of the box, maybe the users can't even find your products or the basic stuff that they're looking for in the web shop. So if you have a really like interesting kind of service or a single product, then you might go a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of products and different categories and stuff like that, you need to have those basic navigation, searches, stuff like that in correct places and usable and really easy to use, because you need to think that when the visitor comes to your site, he might spend there like, okay, 1 minute to 10 minutes or something like that, but it's only your site is only a limited time what you compare to where else the visitor goes. So you must follow the things that everybody is using. If you go too much outside of the box, your design might really ruin the experience and even might affect how they do purchases in your store. So there's a little bit of balance. You have to do things in like a standard way, but you also need to present with images, with colors and stuff like that, what you are really about. And I think that's the basics when you go to design.
So kind of having a wow factor with the content or the branding, how you kind of come up with it, but then keeping it like simple and usable that the customers can easily find what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's the basic stuff. And then if you have, like, as I said, if you have a really cool product or stuff like that, then you can go a little bit crazy on the product page or have different kind of landing pages where you can go a little bit more crazier. But the basic store should function really how a store should function, so that when people just want to come there and buy stuff, it's easy and intuitive.
Mikko, the next one is for you. There's over 50 people working for Woolman, and we're not working in divisions. We're trying to work as a team. So I know that you've been having a lot of discussions with our design team. So and then you've used a lot of the heat maps and the kind of the recording tools to actually assess how the sites are working. So what kind of problems you usually see in a average Shopify shop?
Right, excellent question. So we looked at all sort of data, visual data, numeric data, everything that has to do with the theme. And the thing that I'm like most worried about is that many clients are not aware of the customer journey. So you should think that as a supermarket visit, you enter the store, then you try to check out, and there you have certain steps you need to follow. So if even the merchant doesn't know how to act upon in your shop and how that journey goes, then it's most likely very, very difficult for the consumer to understand where should I go. And there I would recommend like doing very simplistic steps. So straightforward, start from the basics, and only after that try to do all sort of like more advanced tips and tricks in there. And then like the second topic that is linked with this subject is that everybody wants to be very individualistic. I want to be unique. I want to be something special. I want to be something that is out of the box. That's like a nice idea. But the fact that I've seen is that then it ends up to a big mess. So we see lots of moving images, animations, video, and those are like very good ways to add something extra to the shop. But I wouldn't add them to all of your pages or stack like 3 videos next to each other. Then that sort of like ruins the experience.
Perfect. That's actually a good gateway to the next question that I had in my mind. And this is one of the questions that I hear really a lot from new customers or kind of people who are actually building their first Shopify shop. So Joonas, this one is for you. The theme. So can I do a good shop fit with the theme from the Shopify theme store, or do I need custom design?
Well, you can do a really good store with the basic themes that you find from Shopify theme store. There's even free themes that offer like the basic functionalities. Those are really great. You can start with those. If you are ready to like invest a little, very little, like $108, you get a little bit extra from the themes that have a price from them. And those are really good like starting points for your store. They have, I think, everything what you need, and you have the ability to customize them so that you can present your brand and your products really well. And they are really good for the start. Of course, if you have a very unique product, you might need some customization on product pages or different pages, but you can really start up with those and then build as you are progressing through, and when you see that, okay, we need something more here and there, and it's really easy to add things later on. And as I said before, the content is key here, so that you have good description on your products and good images. That's really important when you have a store. If you have to have good images of your products.
We actually, the topic for the first episode was how you can hit the first million in sales, and I don't think that the theme will be the limiting factor. If you can build a brand, if you can do the customer acquisition, if you have good content, meaning pictures, good copywriting, and the pricing is right, then the theme won't be the limiting factor to hitting the first million in sales.
Right.
If we, this is again from Mikko. If we go back to the kind of the marketing point of view, what do you think is the product page itself the most important page in the shop, or is it something else?
That's definitely like super important for the majority of e-commerces. Then you have to take into consideration that not all e-commerces are alike. So there are different businesses, different kind of business models. It might be that you just buy the good ones, or then it's a subscription-based model, or you have less or more selection. Those are like key factors. But the basic thing that pretty much like annoys me the most is that you try to go like either or when it comes to design and product page. It's either that it's just like images and very visual, or then it's like packed full with text. And it should be a combination of both. So the storytelling works that you have to have those both, and they need to go hand in hand. So typically, you need to have those images, you need to have the wow factor on the product page, but then the product page should also tell the story, include those basic informations about the product, and then that should like combine in a way that it feels comfortable, it feels easy, and you clearly understand what's going on the product page. So my reply to Teemu is that definitely I would put lots of attention to optimizing the product page and pointing out that that's a process. You can't go perfect with your first version. So we keep with our clients, we keep like developing them further, testing on the product page.
I could actually address the same question to Joonas as well. If you would do a ideal product page, let's say, for example, in photography, camping shop, or shop selling cameras or something like that, how would you start to do the design or the setting up of the product page?
Well, there's a lot of, as Mikko said, we have to have like both. We need to have like the imagery and also the information that the customer is really looking for. So of course, the product itself defines a lot what you need to have in the product page. If you have something like electronics, of course, technical details are more important. We have to have like a space for that. And of course, there has to be some kind of marketing spots in product space, like telling why the product is so good. So that's something that we can enhance. In the basic version, you just have like the description and base information of the product, but then you could really tell a little bit more why this product is so good and how it compares, for example, to other products and stuff like that. And so that really tell tell more about the product with images and short text and maybe some icons and stuff like that, so that we can really, as when you think like if people go to a store, in physical store, of course the seller can tell a lot about the product. So that's something what we would like to have in the product page. It's easy to buy if you're just looking to buy it, but if you're not certain about the product, we could have more information coming up that we can tell more about the product and why it's so good. So it's nothing that special really. And there we need the text and we need images to really go hand in hand.
Yep, and the most asked question is that how much information should I have in there? And our like recommendation, a rule of thumb is that you should have like as many fingers as one has in his or her hand. So 5 to 6 bullets, and that can be like bullet points, or then that can be in a one paragraph of text. But the thing, especially if you have very technical products or if you have lots of like product data, is that we've seen merchants who want to tell it all, and that's too much. So you shouldn't have like tabs full of text. You should think what's the most crucial text, what's the one that the people actually want to see and helps making the decision. So think about the fact that you have like 30 seconds or 15 seconds of time to impress that client, and then what's the most crucial.
This is something regarding design and the functions or the performance of the shop. Shopify and loading speeds seems to be a topic that's always coming up in different places. What's our take on the loading speeds? Are they important? Are there something that Shopify is lacking, and how we should actually address the whole issue? Joonas, you can go first.
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, I think this is something that it's not only Shopify question. It's about everything. We can concentrate here on how Shopify does stuff. So loading speeds, of course, they're important. But I think people overemphasize the loading speeds a lot, because if we look at where people usually browse like your stores, nowadays we have like good connections in city centrums and even in like rural areas. So I think, and the mobile devices people are using, they're really like, they have power, and they are not lacking in that sense. So when we have a good connection, we usually have a good loading time. And of course, there's some factors that you need to have in mind, like the images, that you don't put too large images in your store. But also the teams that Shopify uses can crop your images to a certain size, so that if you load a big image, the user will be served with a smaller image. And also Shopify knows how to package those images into a new file format, which is really easy and fast to load. So there's a lot of automation behind it. So all you need to keep in mind, don't overdo your images, and make sure that the team knows how to serve the images in right size. And most of the teams in the team store already do that, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem.
Discussions about loading speeds. Mikko, what do you think? How important are they when a new visitor is coming from a paid ad?
Yeah, so my view is sort of different, because I've seen the benefits of getting the pages fast. I completely agree with Joonas that Shopify as a platform is good and it's getting better. However, we have been like pushing the platform to develop further and make sure that the loading times are as fast as possible. And why? Due to the fact that we have been looking at the data, especially data coming from like paid acquisition sources such as Facebook or Instagram, which are using their own in-app browsers, and they are making the shops rather slow. And then I won't talk about design, but I'm more talking about the people and people's like attitude, because I feel that kind of many visitors are very anxious nowadays. So they are ready to wait for that page to load for a second or two. And if it doesn't load or if it doesn't look perfect, then they will go away. And that's something that I'll always keep keep telling my clients and even like scaring them off that they will never return. If that experience is horrible, they will never return. You have lost a customer, you have lost your future, you have lost money. So therefore, we really much want to make sure that the themes we develop are such that function on all devices with all sort of connections, and that the experience it's such that it actually works very well. So from my point of view and our point of view, when it comes to growth and the sessions, it's important to pay attention to the loading speeds. Try out your different landing pages, especially if you are doing campaigns where you get lots of visitors for a single page. I mean, like tens, hundreds, thousands of visitors or even more. Then you can like think that should you optimize that landing page somehow? Should some things be considered when optimizing that, or even like A/B testing different kind of landing pages, as there are then kind of like lots of and big differences between different kind of structures.
Thank you. I think both answers were really good. One more question actually about the loading speed subject, which is some ways related into Shopify apps. So how we should actually avoid the possible problems we might have installing wrong kind of applications. Do we have a list of applications that we know that perform well, ones that are actually implemented on the design or the theme side? Joonas, what do you think? Where are kind of the good and bad advice we can give about applications and the design part?
Yeah, this is really important about when we, and I totally agree with Mikko with the loading speed. Of course, it's important. And what I try to emphasize that the images usually aren't the problem. The problem usually becomes from the apps. So this is really something that you really need to keep in mind, that when you are adding like new functions to the store through apps, it depends on the app, what is it really doing there. And if you are really like doing a tiny like new function, or like, I want to, for example, I would like a notification bar in the heading of my site, in the header. And if you choose to go with the app, the app might even do it in that way that it's going to load more stuff to your site. It's going to load CSS, so that's styling. What does the notification bar look like? It's going to load up maybe images for small thumbnail images, like if it's going to load JavaScript. And that's the thing where what's going to really start to affect your loading speed. So you're adding stuff and it's adding requests to the site. And that's something that I'm also a little bit worried about, that people are doing like small stuff with apps. I would propose that if you have like a bigger like a thing that you need to do, then you should really look into the apps. For example, if you want a good search engine, go and see what the apps are offering. But if you have just a minor thing, then come back to your team developer, us, and we could like tell them, okay, this is really easy to do in your team. It's not gonna add any more requests to the website, and that way it's gonna work faster. And of course, we can also tell if you are. So that's really the basic stuff. If you're doing small minor tweaks, really think about, is the app really the good way to do it? We can really do it well in the team side, and that's the really key point. Even the apps might even do so that they are loading big JavaScript libraries that what we already are using in the team, but they don't really talk to each other that well. So they need to have those JavaScript libraries because they need them to function properly, but they already have it. And so that's gonna add more requests and stuff to the site, and that's gonna slow your site down. So that's where you're gonna need to be a little bit careful what you're doing. And of course, when you're installing the app, it tells you that, hey, is it gonna make changes to the team? If it's not gonna make changes to the team files, then you are usually quite solid with the app. But of course, if you want to show something on the storefront, usually it needs to do some changes. So then you need to like really think, what changes is this gonna make? We have a list of some good apps that we are working with, and of course, we have a list of things that we would like to do in the team rather than the apps.
Yeah, I see it pretty much the same way. Like product reviews, perfect example. There's actually a lot of value that we can bring with the reviews. If we install Yotpo, for example, I'm a big fan of Yotpo, then it's going to be correct. It's going to send the automated emails. It doesn't affect the performance on the theme. And then probably the other way is that like the informational bars or labels or above the product images, there's no point to do them with applications because you can do them like with half an hour of coding with the good Shopify expert. And then I think the third scenario is that if you have like these bigger and better applications, you're gonna need to talk with an expert to make sure that they are not kind of overriding anything that they do, or kind of not doing any kind of confusion between the applications.
Yeah, and can I add a little? When you're testing your apps, then you should always remember like duplicate your team, and if you just want to try and play with it, remember to duplicate your team so that you can go back to the original team. That if you just think that okay, this app wasn't good, go back to the original team and then test another app. That's really basic stuff, and everybody should know that.
Excellent point. And what about when talking about like design and apps? I want to point out one question to Joonas, the evergreen one, pop-ups. What about pop-ups? What should I do when it comes to pop-ups?
Well, if you were talking about apps, well, there's a lot of good teams that have basic pop-ups built in. So you don't need apps for that. For example, Motion or Prestige or those teams already have pop-ups that you can customize. You can even say that, okay, this pop-up shows only on the front page, or this shows in every page, but of course it's going to show you only one time. And then you can add content to their pop-up. What kind of content you want to show, you can really add. You can market your newsletter, or you can market your newest product or stuff like that. It's really easy. So I wouldn't take an app for that. And also pop-ups, I wouldn't like use them too much, because that's kind of annoying when you got lots of pop-ups. So nowadays you need to have some kind of cookie banner, and if you even after that have a different kind of pop-up, it might be irritating. So think twice and test what's going to work for you.
Exactly. And what about the fact that quite many merchants want to have a like major pop-up on the front page when you visit the store for the first time? What do you think that as a designer, is that like a good policy, or should that be avoided?
I would avoid it, because first off, if people are landing on your front page, the front page itself should have all the really good information and in that order that you want to show your new customers. So why are you adding a pop-up there if you have the space to show them really everything? It's more of if you have a really special offer, then I think the pop-up might be even better if you land in any page. But I think the front page itself should really be self-explanatory, so that it's going to tell everything about your brand and your product. So I don't see really a good reason why you use a pop-up there. Usually you want to have like people on the mailing list and stuff like that. But even in the front page, we can usually have a timeout for the pop-up so that it doesn't appear right away. So we could say like 30 seconds. If the user hasn't find anything at that time, then we're going to show it and tell them, okay, you can check to our mailing list and you get minus 10% off from your first purchase or something like that. But you don't have to push it too much. They're on your front page. You should already be telling them what you're about and what's the good products there. So that's my point of view. Of course, there might be some different views as well.
Perfect. I think we need to call it the day for this episode. So we've kind of touched on the base on all the subjects we wanted to discuss about. And as always, I'm always learning new things with the discussions that I'm having here. Hopefully this has been enjoying. If you have any questions, please feel free to type the comment in the YouTube channel, or then contact us directly from the Woolman pages, woolman.co or woolman.io. So, and again, we're not sure what the topic for the next episode will be, but there will be a new episode coming again in a week. So see you there. This has been Shopify Kryptonite by Woolman, and my name was Teemu. We have Mikko and Joonas also in the session. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Stay tuned. Bye.
Bye-bye.